Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, my name is Quinn Jacobson, and this is the Studio Q show, or I don't know what, we don't even call it that anymore. We'll just call it our little gathering. And for those of you jumping on YouTube, I'll give you a chance to get in here. I know somebody told me I start too soon and blah, blah, blah. So I know I'm pretty punctual. I try to be. It's just my nature. So we'll give them a couple minutes to get in here. Welcome and thank you for coming. I really appreciate it, everyone. And thank you, Jeffrey and Bernadette and Boguslav, for coming in live. It's always nice to have human beings to talk to. Although I'd probably do this if I didn't even have people, but that's okay. I like the interaction. So I think this is going to be fun today. We talked last time about the war and violence video. And we had Jeff Greenberg on here a few weeks ago talking about mortality and art and this intersection of creativity and existential concerns. And what I found interesting with Jeff and Sheldon talking about this was that this whole idea of managing, people say, well, what are you doing? I was just talking to somebody the other day about this degree that I want to do. And they said, well, why are you doing that? What are you going to do? And I told them, I said, look, this is a really interesting question to be asking today. We're in this postmodern era of art. Galleries are kind of fading away or struggling all the time because of the online presence, and the Gen Z and the alpha generations are just, clicking on their phones. They're not really physically going. I mean, some of them are. I'm painting with a very broad brush here, no pun intended. But they're not going into galleries. And you've probably seen that meme where those young people are sitting there in front of the great big Night Watchman. And I think it's I've seen it. Where was it? It was in Paris somewhere. I can't remember the gallery. But they're all sitting there on the bench doing this, right? And the great big, beautiful, and the Night Watchman behind him. You've probably seen that. Those are some of the examples. So this idea of how does an artist come to grips with new material? How does an artist find inspiration? How does an artist become authentic in making work, right? I recommended Rick Rubin's book a long while back. We did a little segment on that, on the creative life. We talked a little bit about this. I like Rick Rubin a lot. I don't agree with everything he says, like most people, right? I mean, we all have this, cutoffs, and a lot of people don't agree with anything I say. So it's not a far stretch to say that some of his stuff really, a lot of his stuff really, really good. Some of his stuff not so great. I don't know, after looking at this stuff, you make art for yourself, but you really do need a public. If you're looking at the scope of terror management and all that, you do need a public kind of interface to show the work. So anyway, we're going to talk about Jeff Greenberg's. Sorry, my laptop's going wacky. We're going to talk about Jeff Greenberg's little segment here. I think you'll enjoy it. Let me see if I can do this. Slides, no. Oh, wow, I got slides in there. That's cool. Share screen, Studio Q. Yep, that's it. My trestle shot. That's a cool trestle shot, somebody told me. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's really, it's really about the tumbleweed and the tire, but we won't go there. So this is The Rock and the Hard Place. If you haven't had a chance to examine or listen to that, we're going to watch 3 minutes of Jeff Greenberg explaining his rock and hard place theory. I wrote about it on my blog. If anybody's interested in that, I'll share the link for you. But let's listen to him here explain this. Let me just make sure my stuff is on play here.
One of the things we talked about was the idea of a rock type worldview and a hard place type worldview. And that in a sense, the world is caught between the rock type worldviews and the hard place type worldviews. And the hard place type worldview is the kind you're talking about, where We understand more about the relativistic nature of belief systems and of truth, and we embrace tolerance and more openness. We're not as sure what's good and what's bad, what's heroic and what's evil. And we try to still do something that we view as heroic and try to combat evil, but we view it in a more tentative way. We're not as certain of things, and that's all great, but it comes at a psychological cost of anxiety, because with less sureness about the rightness of our way of trying to feel significant in the world, you have more anxiety. And so one of the things that we've argued at times is that what goes along with that is more anxiety and more attempts to self-medicate that anxiety away. And I think to some extent you see this, more liberal, open relativistic worldviews, you see more use of alcohol, other drugs, pharmaceuticals, consumption, shopping, distractions, and those sorts of things. So you got that. Then the rock type worldview is more certainty about good and evil, right and wrong. There's more in-group loyalty, we're right, they're wrong, and it's more dangerous and destructive to other groups, without question, but maybe more psychologically secure. If you were Aryan and you were in Germany in the mid-30s, it was awesome. So you get psychological security from the rock type worldview, and the cost is to those who are designated as the evil that has to be overcome. So ISIS and basically all fundamentalist ideologies, ranging from communist, Christian, Islamic, Jewish, those rigid ideologies work well for those who buy into them, but at great cost to others. Most of us probably would agree that the relativistic ones are better, but there is that cost of anxiety that you have to live with. And I think Kierkegaard used the phrase school of anxiety. You have to live in the school of anxiety. Some of our evidence suggests that the more death is close to mind, the more people tend to gravitate toward the rock type worldviews. And that gets us back into trouble.
And the relativistic hard place worldviews are a major threat to rock worldviews, leading to a lot of hostility, just as the rock worldviews are threatening to us relativists. Throughout the world, they're, partly, as a long-term consequence of the Enlightenment and moving in towards the modern era, partly because of the social sciences and psychology and Becker and, all these great thinkers over the years. There have been more ideas about how all this works, which really implies a more relativistic view and is a terrible threat to those who see things in more concrete right and wrong ways. To some extent, a lot of the conflicts in the world right now are about rock versus hard place. That seems to be the essence of the political divide in the United States for the most part. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Again, that's painting in broad strokes.
That's just a recap. Thank you. That's just a recap. This topic is just loaded with fodder to create artwork around, or indirectly, or connect to. And I just want to break a couple of things down here for you. Does anyone know who Blaise Pascal was? A religious dude way back in the day. You might have heard of Pascal's wager. He was a Catholic that believed in science and logic and all that kind of thing. But Pascal's wager is about believing in God or not believing in God. And you don't have anything to lose if you believe in God, and everything to lose if you don't, kind of thing. I mean, the wager, that's the wager kind of thing. But that's what he's known for. But moreover, Pascal said, men never do evil so completely and cheerfully as when they do it from a religious conviction. And I think a lot of times people tend to forget how much conflict in the world there is because of these rock place worldviews. And let's talk about, what is the rock place worldview? For me, the rock place worldview is exactly what they described there. the certainty, the absoluteness, the unwavering, the credulous, the without doubt, I know the answers to this religion, or this religion is correct, this afterlife, or this God, or this whatever we're talking about. So Pascal is absolutely correct. I think there's such a mandate, such a conviction of being right, and such certitude and certainty of being right about what they believe, that everyone else, there's nothing that can come against them, right? I mean, all you have to do is look around the world, and you'll see these rock worldviews. And it doesn't have to necessarily just be in religion, although that is prominent, right? That's probably the main one. But politics, look at sports teams, sports fan clubs. I mean, they're certain and confident that their team's the best and all that kind of stuff. This is the rock worldview. So if you're a religious person, or you're convinced of something beyond, there's no way this could be untrue. If you have those kinds of beliefs, you're probably in the rock place. Now, the hard place worldview, that's where I find myself. The hard place is this. This is how I kind of describe it. I'm uncertain about everything. I'm uncertain on purpose. I'm uncertain on meaning. I'm uncertain on truth. I'm uncertain on, it's not as clear cut. Everything is more gray than black or white. So if you have belief systems that are black and white, that are just completely absolute, you're not in the hard place. You're in the rock place. Now, Greenberg, Jeff pointed out, which is absolutely true, obviously, that the rock place worldview people have more psychological security, period. When you're convinced of something, you're perfect, you're ensconced in that. There's nothing that's going to get in and make you think any differently. Nobody's going to convince you to vote for this other guy or join this other religion or do that. Nobody's going to do that. It's not going to happen. So the rock place, more psychologically secure, but it causes a lot more problems for the other in the world. And the other is anybody not in that particular in-group, whatever that in-group is. The hard place worldview is more fluid. Again, unsure, tentative, not quite convinced of everything that, kind of like Socrates said. He said, the more I know about things, the more I know that I don't know anything. I'm paraphrasing. That's the kind of hard place worldview. Now, the hard place worldview, usually, not always, the creative people will find themselves in the hard place worldview. And why is this? Well, because we're unsure. We're not convinced of everything being black and white. In fact, if we spend any time on the planet, we know pretty sure that we don't know anything. There's Stephen. Welcome, Stephen. He says, is atheism a rock place worldview? Well, that's a really good question. Is atheism a rock place worldview? I would say probably not, if you define atheism this way. Atheism versus theism. Atheism is a without belief in a deity, and theism is belief in a deity. So if you don't have belief in something, probably not a rock place. Probably not a rock place. But I'll make the one exception here, Stephen. That if you look at kind of the more of the militant atheists, or what they call the new aged atheists, I think is what they're called, Dawkins and some of these other guys. The names escape me right now. That would be a rock place. So, in other words, if you're advocating if you're advocating a worldview that you're certain of and want to convince me of that and pull me over to that and convert me or do away with me is the other alternative. If you're trying to convince me that there is no God, that you're promoting that as, quote, a religion, it isn't, but if you're promoting that, it can be a rock place. I've seen rock place atheists. Most of them are hard place people, but I've seen rock place atheists for sure. Hey, Tim Layton, good to see you, brother. Welcome, welcome. So the hard place, we find ourselves in this situation of the hard place versus the rock place worldviews. Greenberg and Pazinski talked about the cost of being in the hard place. It's not like you necessarily choose. This is a difficult thing to kind of talk about because it's not like you choose to be in the rock place or the hard place. You're kind of born into this Bukowski kind of stuff, right? So your culture, if it's influenced you enough, and say you were born and raised in Tokyo, you might be a Taoist or whatever the main kind of religion, or if you're born in a Middle Eastern country, you might be raised Muslim. Those kinds of things obviously play a huge role. Now, there are plenty of people that break away from the stuff, whatever religion or groups or whatever, and they find themselves in the hard place. But there comes a cost, and that cost is a high level of self-medicating, drug abuse, alcoholism, quite a bit of mental illness as well too, right? And we've talked about that, how that can go off one way or the other. The hard place is difficult, but it's less threatening for people in your out group. If you're in the in group and you're in the hard place, you're not going to derogate or belittle or try to convert people into the hard place. You don't have anything to convert them to, really. So why do these things matter? Because they matter because the worldviews are the beginning of what we call evil or evil actions. The clashing of cultural worldviews or meaning systems, rock place, a hard place, clashing, really can upset the balance of things in the world. And that's what you see. That's what you're seeing today. How do we use the fodder? What is the fodder and how do we use it? Or how can we apply this theory to making art? And are there examples? Well, let's look at that. There's a whole bunch of examples. I don't know if I'm going to go through all of these. I just came through and did the, we talked about art coping mechanism for death anxiety. Here a couple of examples though. Damien Hirst, if you guys know who Damien Hirst is, his formaldehyde animal pieces. Maybe something closer to us is Sally Mann's work, The Body Farm. There's so many examples. I could have filled pages and pages. Some very obvious, like these, and some indirectly related to these ideas of hard place, rock place, and making that symbolic immortality through creation happen. And it depends on how you're approaching it. But legacy, eternal life, and the artistic process. If you look at monuments, memorials, even your personal artwork, it serves an attempt to leave a lasting legacy, echoing the tension between the fear of death and the human need for symbolic survival. Now, if an artist says they're not making work to leave something behind, they've probably just not examined themselves enough to understand that that's a motivator. That's deep inside of us, a motivation to make the work and leave something. We know we're going away, so we want to leave something behind, and we hope it's valuable. And the subtle depictions. If you don't know what sublimation is, it's a defense mechanism in psychoanalytic theory, particularly associated with Sigmund Freud. Peter Wessel-Zappa in The Last Messiah uses this as his fourth and final tool coping mechanism for death anxiety is sublimation. And art, that's what we use as artists, is sublimation. So going through here, activities, instead of expressing these impulses directly, which might lead to guilt or social repercussions, individuals channel them into creative or socially constructive outlets, such as art, work, or intellectual pursuits. We're talking about the art side of it. For example, someone with aggressive tendencies might sublimate these feelings by becoming a surgeon or engaging in competitive sports, turning potential harmful impulses into something beneficial for society. That's what sublimation is. And that's what we do as artists. We take these things that bother us. First, you have to figure out what bothers you. And being in the hard place, it's throw a dart. You're going to find something that bothers you, I guarantee you. Find something that bothers you, or you love, or you have questions about, or whatever, and you work through that. You exercise those existential concerns. This process called transference. You put it on the artwork, and you send it out to the public. Escapism. You know J.M.W. Turner's paintings or Monet's. You can look at those. Just a different kind of pursuit. Absurdism. It's another way to look at these ways to fodder for artwork. So Basquiat, Dali, Camus, writers, painters, all that kind of stuff, created works that grapple with the absurdity of life, reflecting the true nature of finding meaning in a world overshadowed by death. Evaluating how absurdity in art both acknowledges and rebels against the inevitability of death could be critical in expressing ideas about existential absurdity. If you've never looked at absurd philosophers and thinkers like Camus, and there's quite a few of them out there. Camus comes to mind first. You should look at them. Absurdism is very, very interesting. I ascribe to a lot of it. I do believe absurdism is, I ascribe to a lot of the theories around that. Humor and death. This is interesting. Greenberg's theory may also be explored through the use of irony or dark humor in art. I don't know if you know Catalan's La Nona Hora. It's that the ninth hour. That's the Boguslav probably knows this piece. That's the statue falling on the Pope. I should have had that in there, but you can look it up. Is it funny? I guess if you're in the rock place, it might not be so funny, right? I mean, that's the thing. That's the whole weighing all of this stuff through. Art as a heroic narrative, very good point of view. A lot of fodder there. Many artworks depict a heroic journey where the protagonist overcomes existential challenges, symbolizing the search for meaning in a death-bound world. Campbell's idea of a hero's journey could intersect with Greenberg's theory here. How does art offer narratives in transcendence, transformation, or defiance in the face of death? So the hero's journey has influenced a wide range of modern storytellers. You've probably heard, Joseph Campbell's hierarchy and mythological themes, all that kind of stuff, based on Jungian psychology. But the archetypal nature, right? So the hero's journey has influenced a wide range of modern storytelling, from literature and films like Star Wars to comic books and video games. It is seen as a universal pattern of human experience, reflecting the deep psychological and mythological themes of transformation, growth, and overcoming challenges. Campbell's work is deeply intertwined with Jungian psychology, emphasizing the archetypal nature of the hero's journey as a metaphor for personal development and self-discovery. I'm always kind of tripped out about artists who don't read or don't kind of transdisciplinary or interdisciplinary. We need this. We need to look at writers and sculptors and all kinds of scientists, and we need to get out of our bubbles here and go outside of our little niche and look at, read, consume new stuff, old stuff, whatever, and take all of that in. So you know who Campbell is. So you know what the hero's journey is. So you know what sublimation is. All of these things feed in to the creative process. And you need these things. You need to be more than a photographer. I mean, that's just, you have to be. You have to be a human. You have to be someone interested in humanity and what we're doing here and all that kind of existential concerns. Art is a cultural buffer against death anxiety. There you go. Cultural worldviews in art. TMT, terror management theory, emphasizes that cultural worldviews provide a buffer against death anxiety. We know this. In this light, you could evaluate how art reflects and reinforces cultural systems that give life meaning and significance. An example, religious iconography, nationalistic art, jingoism, propaganda, or political murals. Oh, this is just such strong fodder for creation. I mean, as you consume this and take it in and metabolize it and churn it and think about it and sit with it, you'll start coming up with with ideas that are really, really deep and meaningful to you. And you'll know that. You'll know that without doubt. Crisis of meaning in contemporary art. In modern and postmodern art, there is often a rejection of traditional cultural worldviews. Now, if you don't know what modern art is, you don't know what postmodern art is, and you don't know any of the art movements, you should look at that and familiarize yourself with these movements because they stack one on top of the other. And it's really important to see how humanity reacts to art, especially what we're interested in, visual art. Let's see here. Boguslav, the famous sculpture of Pope JP2 overwhelmed by stone. All of Poland remembers. Yes, I would imagine you do, Boguslav. Yes, yeah. So let me read that again. Boguslav said, the famous sculpture of Pope JP2, which that is John Paul II, overwhelmed by stone. Boom, the big statue fell on him, and he's there. You can look it up. But all of Poland remembers because of the heavy Catholicism, right? I mean, that's, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, all of Poland knows for sure. So we go on. Art and the sublime. We know what sublime is, right? I don't think these are sublime, serious or, blah, 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 whatever. The sublime is a mediator between life and death. Art has often been used to evoke the sublime, a sense of awe and terror in the face of the vastness of the universe or mortality itself. Landscapes of Caspar David Friedrich, the 19th century German romantic landscape painter. You would know, I just thought of this. You would know this image, I think. Have you ever seen the image of the guy on the mountain and almost tails and he's looking out, it's his back and it's a painting and he's looking out over this vast mountainscape in the wintertime? You see it everywhere. That's one of his paintings. And that's very powerful. Look at his work. Very powerful stuff. Caspar David Friedrich. The sublime experience in art could be analyzed as a way to confront death while still finding a form of transcendence. Good stuff. Good stuff. Love it. And then finally, death rituals and artistic practices. Art as part of death rituals. We know this one closely, right? You can explore artistic practices tied to death rituals. Dia de los Muertos, right? The Day of the Dead in Mexico. Tibetan sky burials. Anybody know what Tibetan sky burials are? Yeah, cool. Those of you that don't, put a body way up high in a rock and let the birdies come and have their way. Or any creatures. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Or Egyptian funerary art. These are really powerful things to look at. And if you haven't seen Morbid Anatomy, the website, sign up for their newsletter. I don't ascribe to everything they send out. And again, let me make this clear. I don't ascribe to everything all the time that I talk about. So there's parts of these things. I put a Martin Heidegger quote up the other day and, the former Nazi and again, I'm in the hard place, guys. I'm in the hard place. So you can learn a lot from examining those kinds of works. And examine how these traditions both acknowledge and manage death anxiety by embedding artistic practices within cultural rituals. Just that alone, that study alone, fascinating, fascinating stuff. Okay, I wanted to share a couple of pieces of work with you. This is half animal and half symbolic. This is starting to turn for me into some of this work is, I've got a lot of photographs that I feel like will make the cut, but this is starting to turn into me something real and tangible. So as I paint or as I make photographs, this work that I have a couple of pieces here, I'll show you. This work is starting to take form just a little bit. It's starting to take shape of what I want to do. So what I did here, this is a self-portrait of my arm with RA4 color reversal direct positive. So this is a 10-inch by 10-inch image that I put 9 inches, and well, yeah, it's a little longer than that. And then on the right side is an abstract painting that I did to accompany this. And what I did was I tried to manipulate the blocks and the color palette to show these different colors in the arm, and abstractly in the dead grass is the ochre, yellow ochre and Naples yellow and all that stuff, and the burnt sienna going down through the arm, and then the red, of course, for the tablecloth and in the native bird. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to connect these theories with real life stuff. And I found that I'm using my own body a lot. I'm doing a lot of my own parts of me. I just did a painting today with some of my own hand stuff and things like that. So I'm starting to come in to a way of working with photographs and paintings that make a lot of sense in the sense of these theories. So that's the first one. And I just say, based on Becker's theories, I'm excited to share my latest work. I said half biological and half symbolic, but I changed it to half animal and half symbolic because that's the quote. This is a unique blend of direct positive color photography and acrylic painting, RA4 direct reversal print and acrylic on paper. So the Becker quote there is, the essence of man is really his paradoxical nature, meaning that he's conflicted. He's got two sides that fight one another. The fact that he's still half animal and half symbolic, the fact is he's half animal and half symbolic. That's out of the denial of death. So why the tattoos? Well, I was going to ask Bernadette this because I see she has tattoos, right? Well, check this out. If you've never looked at this, this is going to be fun. And I would have loved to query Bernadette on why she has tattoos before I go into this. But if you've read The Worm at the Core, you know why we have tattoos, right? It's really simple and straightforward. The TMT suggests that humans experience anxiety about death, partly because we are aware of our similarities with other animals. This is a huge topic that I've been preoccupied with for a long time. Our denial, so human beings are really good at two things, denying and lying. Becker calls it the vital lie, because we don't see the world as it is. We built defenses against it, right? Our ensconced cultural worldview, so we don't see the world as it is. But we do not acknowledge our nature as animals. We're just like every other animal, right? We do the same stuff. We eat, we breed, we sleep, we defecate, we urinate, we do all that kind of stuff. That's the cleaned up language for YouTube and family channels. So why do we have tattoos? We are born, we age, and we die, just like any other animal. This awareness reminds us of our vulnerability, mortality, and the bodily functions we share with animals. Tattoos in this context may serve as a symbolic way for humans to elevate themselves above their animal nature. Now, I don't know about you, but zebras and giraffes, those are not tattoos. Those are actual natural spotting and striping, okay? They didn't go out and get that. Those are natural. But we go out and we decorate our bodies. We put jewelry in it. We wear facial. We do things to say what? We're not an animal. right? Remember that? I am not an animal, right? The Elephant Man. That's a profound, parse those words. That is a profound thing to say as a human being. Why do we say that? Because we don't want to die. We don't want to die, decay, and go in the ground like all the other animals. We don't want to be on that level. So what do? We tattoo ourselves. We rise above that. We modify our bodies with cultural, artistic, or spiritual symbols. People can assert their uniqueness and align themselves with abstract concepts like identity, belief systems, or ideals, which are distinctly human. This process can help diminish feelings of being purely biological creatures, animals, driven by base instincts, which are prone to decay and death. In essence, tattoos provide a way for individuals to engage in what TMT refers to as symbolic immortality, the attempt to connect with something eternal, transcendent, or culturally significant. By inscribing the body with meaningful symbols, people can create a sense of personal identity that is tied to the human world of meaning rather than to the animalistic aspects of life. It doesn't mean you have to run out and get a tattoo, but I guarantee you, you've done something to your body that says, I'm not an animal. Even wearing clothes, right? Shaving. Remember in the Worm? Julius Caesar had every hair plucked out of his body. Every single hair. Why? Because hair is for animals. We don't like hair. Hair is that bear and that tiger, and we're not. No, pluck them out. Get it out. I don't have that. But I guess, I don't know. No comment, I guess. Significant. By inscribing the body, people can create a sense of personal identity. Yes. In this framework, the act of tattooing becomes a method of distancing oneself from the existential anxiety that arises from the knowledge that, in essence, we share the same fate as other animals. By transforming the body into a canvas of meaning, people resist the reminders of their animal nature and mortal limits. Powerful, powerful stuff for me. I don't know about you guys, but that is absolutely powerful. So here's another one. I just finished this one. I've been on a kick about fish and the metaphor of fish. And it's really, really powerful. How when you start metabolizing these theories and then you start making work and you start experimenting these things, man, I woke up about 3:00 this morning with, like, eureka, right? I've got it. In this particular painting, I just knew, I didn't know what I should have shown you. I should have shown you the before one too. But anyway, let me read this. Fish never discover that they live in the water. What I was going to say, before I do that, what I was going to say is, yesterday, Jeannie and I were sitting outside talking. And has anyone ever lived abroad out of their own country for a year or two? Yeah? Cool. So Jeffrey will know about this. We lived in Germany. We lived in Europe for 5 years. And well, we loved it. But Jeannie and I were talking. Death anxiety and these theories weigh on you like this. When you're outside of your own country, when you're an Auslander or the other, when you're a foreigner, you're constantly aware that you're a foreigner. Even if people don't have to tell you anything, you're aware. That is rumbling around in your head, just like death anxiety. And so you're going to die. You just don't want to think about it. You're an Auslander or a foreigner, but you don't want to think about it. You want to blend in, right? That's the whole objective of being a foreigner. This morning at 3:00, I wake up and the thing's burning in my head. What thing? This thing. Fish never discover that they live in the water. In fact, since they live immersed in it, their life goes by without noticing its existence. Likewise, behavior that is normalized in a dominant cultural setting becomes invisible. Okay, so I'm using the metaphor of fish. saying they don't know that they're in water. They've never thought about it. They don't need to think about it. They're ensconced in their cultural worldview. They don't need to think about that they're in water. Humans, like fish, are often blind to the very conditions that shape their existence. Oh my God, so true. Cultural forces act as a medium in which we swim, making death denial a normalized part of life. Lie and deny. Humans are so good at it. Just as fish never realize they live in water, many humans never realize how deeply their behaviors and beliefs are influenced by existential struggles. To live authentically and fully, one must break through the surface, becoming aware of the water of mortality, and face the reality that death is not just an abstract concept, but an intrinsic part of life. And Camus says there's only one liberty: to come to terms with death. Thereafter, anything is possible. We'll define that on another episode. Fish in water, 9x12 acrylic on paper. So that's what I wanted to share with you. That's what my process of going, how I'm metabolizing, integrating and metabolizing these theories, bringing them to artwork. They're trying to, at least some prompts or some I don't know, I have a couple, I have a few that I feel okay about, actually. But that's my process of working. And so when people say, I don't know what to work on, or I haven't figured this out or figured that out, man, sit down, metabolize, think about this stuff, reach out and look at other artists, read books, go to YouTube, do whatever you need to do to inspire yourself to create work. But not just to sit down in front of a piece of paper and, there's got to be a little bit of intention. And that's what we wanted to do here. We wanted to have a place where we could gather and share ideas and work and thought and encourage one another to do this work, to make artwork happen, because we're not going to get anywhere, theory and practice, right? People always say, oh, always theory, and you're never making anything. Well, no, that's not true. Just because you might not see what I'm doing doesn't mean I'm not making work. Believe me, I have a house full of photographs and paintings. Okay. I literally, a few hundred paintings, thousands of photographs. So at the end of the day, we have a choice to make. We can say, we can try to fool people, right? There's a lot of creative, well, let's call them artistes manqués, right? The failed artists. There's a lot of failed artists out there that will mimic things and put them up and want your adulation and say they're deep. And, well, if I have to tell you what it's about, then, forget it. No, we don't want to be those people. We want to be the artists with intention, with interesting things to say. Bernadette and I have been sharing videos back and forth. We should probably make them a group. And you could go in and check. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I can put a little something up on my website with a list of different. There's some really good ones. She sent me this one, Cardboard Bernini. Just wow, just good stuff. What's the other one we went? There's a couple of old artists and some just good stuff, just for inspiration, right? But one thing you'll notice is they're all talking about this. Every single one of them, they're talking about this. They don't talk about it in these terms. That's why we're here. That's what we're doing. We're going to make this thing happen for creative people and be a resource for that. So those are the things that I wanted to share with you today. What else do we have? Anybody have anything profound or simple talk about?
I just want to mention earlier when we were talking about atheism, there was I can't remember where the quote was from, but it goes something like, God didn't exist, it would be necessary to invent him.
Yeah, that sounds like that sounds like a Dawkins quote.
Maybe, yeah, I can't remember. I just remember like that quote.
Christopher Hitchens, yeah. They're I don't know if you've ever heard Sheldon talk about these. I don't know if he called them New Age or militant atheists or whatever, but they are. There's Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, dead now. There's a handful of these guys, right? These kind of militant atheists that are trying to promote. I don't know how you promote a non-belief. I don't know how you do that, right? How do you promote a non-belief? There's like it's like the logical fallacies. When somebody says, like if somebody asked Jeffrey, they said, prove that God doesn't exist. And it's like, no, you got that wrong. You're making the positive premise that a deity exists. And if the burden is on you to prove that, not proving a negative. I can't prove that something doesn't exist. So it's a confusing kind of thing. Oh, Voltaire. Okay. Voltaire said that. Very good. Yes. There's been a lot of iterations of that. That's probably why Jeffrey was confused. Dawkins said something like that as well too, I think. But it is very TMT. It is very death anxiety, very Beckerian to talk about. Just to be clear, when we talk about cultural constructs, we're talking about everything we have in our culture, in our world, the clothes you wear, the desk you're sitting at, the computer you're at, the way the streets are laid out, the cars you drive, they're all constructs. We've made them all up, everything. How marriages go, what you're supposed to do when you do this or go to school there. All this stuff is just a construct completely. So everything's made up. So it's difficult to, I have to ask, hello, Chopper. I have to ask, if one has no death anxiety from a very young age, would it be safe or healthy to work to acquire anxiety of death and their own mortality? Well, first of all, Chopper, I appreciate that. First of all, I don't know. Children up to about, the social psychologists say about from 6 to 12, somewhere in there, they'll become aware of their own mortality. They'll come. I wrote about my experience at 8 years old, picking up the book on my dad's shelf, that Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, and seeing Chief Bigfoot frozen. That's when it kicked in for me. Oh, my grandma's going to die. Oh, my mom's going to die. At some point between about 6 and 12, that realization, I exist, I'm here, and I know it, therefore I'm going to die. That consciousness kicks in. Thomas Ligotti called it the parent of all horrors, or something like that in his book, the conspiracy against the conspiracy against the human race, something like that. I can't remember the name of the book, but I read it a while ago. Quite a pessimist. Interesting stuff, though. But I don't know that after a certain point in childhood, you are going to be aware of your mortality, Chopper. I don't think you need to acquire death anxiety. It's built into us. If you look back in history, I got a great book back here called Denial. Solomon Sheldon teaches it at Skidmore. Varkey and Brower are the authors of this book. And they go through the psychological and evolutionary history of human beings. And they talk about their theory on when consciousness arose. How do we define consciousness? Well, for me, it's this. I know I'm here. I know I exist. So I know I'm going to die. So consciousness to me is the knowledge of death. That's what consciousness is. Simple. What other animal has this? None that we know of. We're uniquely blessed with that knowledge. How nice. Ooh, fun. I don't think you need to acquire it. I think evolutionarily speaking, we're all adapted to buffer that knowledge of our death. When we see something that reminds us of death, or experience a close call, an accident, watching something on the news, whatever it is, and then death comes to the forefront of our mind, then we can start getting anxious, right? Then we start churning. In America right now, we have just a little over a month before the presidential election. I can guarantee you what you'll see in this country in the next 40 days is a ramp up of fear. When we can elevate fear, you can have people gravitate and do what you want them to do. Through terror management theory, they will vote for the authoritarian. They will vote for the rock place because it's psychologically secure. So the more confident the quote potential leader is, or the more aggressive, and the more fear in the world, the more they're going to get voted. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, Greenberg, Solomon, and Brzezinski wrote a paper. Actually, it's a little book about 9/11. Wow, whoa, that makes it very clear about what happens when we go off on the deep end. So to your question, you should. How do I answer this? If you don't, Chopper, are you saying you don't have any death anxiety? Or let me rephrase that, because death anxiety is a little strange to say. We're not talking about the physical death, the body, right? We're not talking about that. Physical death, I don't care. We're talking about the psychological death. We're talking about the death where you no longer exist. And guess what? You're even worried about your significance. Did I mean anything? Am I going to be forgotten? Yeah, you're going to be totally forgotten. I bet you there's not one or two people watching this show that could even name their great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents, let alone what they did or where they lived or what they liked, what was their favorite food, when they died, when they were born. No, you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it because we're forgotten. We're insignificant in that way. So impermanence and insignificance is terrifying to human beings, psychologically speaking. Every time I talk about death anxiety, somebody always says, oh, I'm not afraid of dying. And it's like, it's not about afraid of dying. It's about being afraid of not existing anymore and being insignificant while you existed. That's why it's important, I think, to be aware of these theories while you're alive, or to be aware that you're going to die. You don't even have to be aware of these theories. There's been many people throughout the world that are aware of this without Becker, without Solomon, and they've lived their life according to what was important to them and what gave them meaning, all while trying to come to terms with their finitude, their non-existence. So if you look at Eastern religions, they're probably pretty close. Becker talks about Buddhism and things like that. But, they still have this kind of overtone of promises, and I know there's variations of these practices, but some of them believe in reincarnation. Some of them believe in, this afterlife here or there, whatever. That's just like any other religion at that point. Becker was talking about this idea of meditating, coming to terms, getting up every morning and saying, wow, I'm grateful that I woke up. I'm grateful that I'm here. I know that I'm not going to be here forever. What does that mean in my life? Does it mean anything for me to say, I know that I'm not going to be here forever? There's a certain sense of urgency to doing what you need or feel like you want to do. And that's where the significance part comes in. So when you die on your deathbed, you're not laying there saying, oh, why did I go to that factory for 40 years for this gold watch? I'm so miserable and now I'm going to die. That's a tough spot. And there's a lot of people in that position. And those people are the people that are clueless and so ensconced in their cultural worldview and their meaning systems, they never, ever even come close to coming to terms with their death or their loved ones. What we do in this country is despicable, right? Somebody dies, we wrap them, get them out of sight, get them out of mind, put makeup on them, fill them up with shit, and put them in a box and let everybody look at them. And no, that is, no. That is a form of death denial. When you're putting makeup on a dead human body on display, you are denying death, period. You're making it seem like everything's okay. No, they're gone and they're never coming back.
But they look so good.
They look so good. Thank you. Yes. Oh, but she looked so good.
And I always say, oh, they really look pretty dead to me.
They look like crap, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we've all been there. We know this. We know this scenario. The idea for us as artists, I think, is to confront those cultural dilemmas, right? Push back on those, right? No, we don't want to treat death, something that's coming for every single living thing on this earth. We don't want to treat it like it's a non-issue. That's it. That's what I've come to terms with. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to treat I could die today. I always say that, right? I hope I don't. Ooh. No, I hope I don't. You know, I want to, in order to reproduce, you need to survive. So survival and reproduction is our main base lizard brain drivers. And then we need to build on that. So I want to live beyond, I'm way past, I have a child, I'm way past all that stuff. I want to live simply for the fact that I am slowly but surely waking up, going through each day with an immense amount of gratitude, trying to be humble, humility, and being just in absolute awe. Man, I made a photograph this morning of the moon over the mountains here and the clouds and the tree hanging in it. I don't know, you know, that kind of stuff. Boring to everyone else, but ooh, very nice to me. So thanks for that, Chopper. I went on a long rant with that, but yeah. Oh, Bogusław, that is so good. Oh my God, yes. Thank you for, that's why I need you guys in here. I need you guys in here to share information with people like this. And I'm going to copy this and put it up. Bogusław just reminded me of an incredible film, and it is amazing. I love this film so much. Let me see if I can. I just recently saw this too, Bogusław. I watch everything that I can on this topic, and wow, what a wonderful show. Oh, and by the way, it is a book as well. Bogusław, I'm going to give them the English version of this. Okay, buddy? I appreciate that. There. And there. So this is the tattooist of Auschwitz. And I've read the reviews on this, and you can say what you want. If some of it's dramatized or whatever, I couldn't care less. I don't care. I really don't care. This is a beautiful film with a beautiful human being, and man, you talk about Joseph Campbell and archetypes. I said hierarchy before. Archetypes. This is a classic love story, and it is so good. I recommend everybody watching that. That is, yeah. I think it's a series. Yeah. I hope people can get to that link. Anyway, look it up, Google it. You can find it. So, thank you for sharing that. Wonderful story. The woman that did the book, she's Australian, and boy, she really, what a transformation as an artist, right? Taking on this, she was kind of doing it out of, watch it, you'll love it. All right, anything else at all? Anything anybody wants to chat about or share? I hope you got something out of it. I hope, starting next week, I am building out my darkroom out here. And I think what I'm going to do, it's not going to be an elaborate thing like I did up on the mountain. That was a whole building and everything. I'm doing this in a third car garage type area. That we just don't need all that space. So I'm going to build out a darkroom. And I've got my spinning door. I brought all my sinks and, you know, all that garbage that I have for the darkroom. So I'm going to have my spinning door on it. And then outside the spinning door, on the outside of that, I'm going to set up my painting stuff. I'm going to start, I want to do some great big paintings. Or bigger, you know, 3 by 3, 4 by 4 feet, something like that. So I'm going to set that up. So that I should be making some photographs in a couple of weeks. I'll be able to photograph all through the winter here. Let's see. Today, yesterday was gorgeous. Yesterday we had, what was it yesterday? We had 35 degrees Celsius here, which is 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So Jeannie and I have been swimming every single day, and we'll probably swim every single day through October too, because it's so warm, 80s and 60s. So we're going to have fun. I'm going to build that out. I'll start making some photographs. I'd like to turn this into a kind of a sharing thing too. If you can make some work, bring it in, talk about it, or have questions. Again, I'll throw it out there. If you have technical questions about anything that I can help with, feel free to ask here. I'm happy to give you my recommendations. I saw something on, what was I doing? Boguslaw put in a Facebook ad for this show, which thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And I was on Facebook, and this note popped up that somebody posted on the collodion forum board, the wet plate board, about pH. And she said, I try to respond. If I see a note that says they bought my book, I'll try to go in and try to help them. I don't spend much time there anymore. But I went in, and this lady was struggling with her pH strips, and there were about 4 or 5 comments on the board, and they were all, I just don't understand. If people don't know what they're talking about, just don't say anything. That's my advice. Just don't post on these boards, please. But people were saying like, pH doesn't matter, and you hear all kinds of different stuff from people, and you shouldn't use pH strips, and all kinds of weird stuff, right? So I had to put on my technical boots and hat and go out and make a long list of why pH is important in your silver bath and what it does, and posted that up there. Just for the simple fact that the technical advice online for wet collodion photography is pretty poor, I would say. And you can get yourself in a lot of trouble, both financially and emotionally, if you follow some of that crap they advise you to do. Since you mentioned your painting, have you ever tried using gelatin emulsion over canvas to create a print instead of paper? Gelatin emulsion over canvas. Oh, I see what you're saying. Huh. Yeah. I've done it on glass. Done it on paper, of course. Different material. I think I've done it on plastic as well too. What he's asking about is you could take a canvas. You could take a canvas, gelatinize it, right? Strip it up, gelatinize it like you're doing a Rollins oil print, dichromate it, put your negative on, expose it. Here's the problem. Well, canvas might hold up. If it's gessoed, I don't know. You have to wash that dichromate out of that canvas, out of that gelatin. So I'm not sure how well the washing process would work, but it's an interesting idea. And then after that, after you wash the dichromate out, you have a relief of the image, the gelatin on the canvas. And then you just take ink. I use the graphic arts inks like the 1785s and browns and blacks, and roll it out and then brush it. I got those really beautiful brushes from the Canadian dude up there. I can't remember his name now. He does a lot of brome oil. He does some Rollins oil. That's interesting. Somebody should try that. I like putting paint on canvas. I like putting paint on paper. So I know people, it's really funny. I'm surprised how many photographers just do not like painting. They just, no, not interested. It's kind of weird because I've always had a bent for it, right? I've always had like, oh, wow, I love it. I love drawing. Here's Here's Bernadette's new favorite thing: soft charcoal. Right, Bernadette? You're going to do that, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep doing it. So
Are you working with soft charcoal, hard, medium? What are you working with? Tell us.
there are all sorts of powdered
Okay.
stuff and all sorts of different stuff.
Nice.
This is kind of off subject, but I think you kind of know the week that I had, just trying to get started. I know
Yeah.
you guys get tired of hearing me like just start, right? But anyway, do you think that the stuff that's around us, it's like right now I'm going through this thing where I just want to take everything that I own and just put it out on the road. It's like I don't want anything. I just don't want, with the exception of my musical instruments and my camera equipment. It's like, do you guys ever feel like the stuff around you? I mean, like even you, Quinn, in that room, and you can see my room's just full of crap too. Do you
Yeah.
ever think that to me, it's really distracting. It's like, I just want a big empty room with like a canvas in it and a few art supplies. I think that I would do better. I don't know. Do you guys ever feel that way?
What do you guys think? I think, yeah, the dilemma of choice kind of thing, huh?
It's just like all your crap, it's like just having a bunch of, and I don't. I mean, my house is really tiny. I don't have a whole lot of stuff, but it's like any stuff that I have.
Yeah, I personally, for me, I understand what you're saying because I always say less is more. And whenever we leave here, I don't know if we'll leave Las Cruces, we could, I don't know. But whenever I can't take care of this stuff anymore and we get to a certain age, I guarantee you that will look like our life.
Yeah, when you move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the second time that I moved to New Mexico, I had a pickup with a extended cab.
Yeah.
And I took what I could get in it.
Yeah.
And that's like the most free that I ever felt.
Yeah.
Just getting rid of all my stuff and just going. And then it accumulates again. But it's like it really bugs me.
Yeah, I tell you, I know the feeling. When we left Germany to come back to America, it's a long flight from Frankfurt to Denver. And I remember distinctly on that flight, I got up to walk around and stretch my legs and whatnot. And I went back by the drink cart and I'm standing there just to, how it gets you, sitting so damn long. And I'm standing there and I reach in my pocket and I pull my key ring out and it's just my key ring. I don't have any keys. I don't have a vehicle. I don't have a house. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I have clothes. I have some luggage on the plane. And then I have some stuff being shipped, which will show up in, 2 months or 3 months or whatever. But I remember standing there going, wow, what a great feeling. Yeah. What an amazing feeling. Just freedom. Freedom is a huge topic in existentialism, right? Choice and freedom and all kinds of things that we get spun up on. And you're so right. We live in such a conspicuous, consuming society that we just, buy more stuff. Yeah. There's a great, his name is Steve somebody. He's an illustrator and he does these strips, these motion strips. It reminds me of Mouse, the cartoon, the author of Mouse, the illustrations. My daughter has those books. I saw them up at her house when we were up there a few weeks ago, and whew, powerful stuff, unbelievable, inspiring, beautiful stuff. And the stories about his father and his mother, just wonderful. But anyway, there's a guy, Steve something. I'll find it and send it out to you. That makes these incredible videos that speaks to the American consumption. Oh, global consumption, really. I know we're speaking to a whole white Europe and North America. Well, I'm in North America, Canada, Mexico, whatever. But that is a huge thing. I'm actually surprised that the amount of artwork that I've seen on consumption has virtually vanished, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it ran a trend or whatever, but man, all these things, everything that comes to my mind, I can feel, wow, I'd love to do something about. I'd love to make something on that, So what I do is I told you about the fish or this or that or whatever I get a bent on, and I just work with that idea, try things, experiment, and see what happens. And man, sometimes you can really make some headway into these ideas about yes, the process of making the work and the work itself, but the actual things that are going on in your head can be really, really insightful. It's almost like meditating. I think somebody asked me, this was a while ago, but somebody asked me, it was a couple of months ago, I guess. Somebody asked me, what do you do for inspiration, right? What do you do? And I say, you know what? I have come to understand that exercise is huge. I need exercise every day. I need to push my body. I need to sweat, and I need to huff and puff. And then I get this release of endorphins and dopamine and all this kind of stuff. And I need a good diet, and I need good sleep, and I need solitude. And those things tend to be some of the key ingredients of setting myself up to take this idea that I might have and try to work it into something. Sorry, we have something here. Hey, Thilo, brother, good to see you. The relationship people have with things is really interesting. I totally agree. Some people have absolutely no attachment to things, Buddhists, and others just tend to accumulate them. We have a show here called Hoarders. Oh my God. It's a very human thing, I think. Yes. I'm glad you mentioned that. Anybody ever heard of Tennessee Williams? He wrote The Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Check this out. The transdisciplinary people, interdisciplinary. You want to get outside of your photography bubble, at least for inspiration. Let me see if I can find this. See how.
What are you doing? No. Oops.
Let me see. I wasn't prepared for this. Williams, cat on a hot tin roof. Cat on a hot tin roof. This is great. This is worth the wait. Believe me, it's so good. Okay, let's see. Okay, here we go. You ready for this, Thilo? This is a great segue for this. Tennessee Williams wrote the play Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and this is in the play. He said, I think the reason he buys everything he can buy is that in the back of his mind, he has this crazy hopes that one of his purchases will be life everlasting, which it can never be. So we're right back to denying death and consumption. And this is, you read The Worm at the Core, this is proven, clinically proven that consumption staves off existential dread. It does. It gives you a dopamine release. Ooh, I don't like it. Personally, I don't like to shop. I really don't. Yeah, Stephen, that's a good one. A gentle art of Swedish death cleaning. You know what Swedish death cleaning is, guys? Yeah. So people who are present that know they're not going to be around forever, they don't leave their children or their neighbors or their family members a house full of shite like Bernadette's talking about, right? So they go through and they do a Swedish death cleaning. And that's what they get prepared so that when they die, it's not a big circus like I had to go through last year with my father and my brother's death. I don't know what, thank you for that, Stephen. I appreciate that. Lotus Fingers Fallen Dafa. Do we have bots in this chat room now? I'm not sure. I can't tell anymore. Boguslav says, maybe spend more time outdoors. That's how I do it. Yes. You know, Boguslav, we spend so much time outside here. I'm always out in the sun, always, yes, always. Or as much as I can. I even take my laptop out sometimes and do that kind of thing. But still, yes, totally. Get outside, do your thing. But yeah, those are good comments. I don't know what Gavin Devine said there, but we'll let that go. Those are good comments. Yes, Bernadette.
Just kind of on the same subject that talking about with consumerism and all that. But, because I read so much about artists and watch the documentaries and all, I don't know. It just seems like to me that some of the greatest artists, depending on what you personally think is great, they lived in very, very simple surroundings. You know what I mean? True. They just didn't have a whole lot of crap around them.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about Agnes Martin.
Yes.
When you look, I mean, she's like nothing. Canvas and her paints.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people. I don't know if you've gone up to Abiquiu yet. Have you gone to O'Keeffe's house?
I haven't. No, I will though.
Yeah, you have to do that because I mean that's how her house was. It's just so minimalist. Not that I'm getting on the minimalist kick, but I don't know. It just seems like to me a lot of artists, and when you read about them, these people that just go off, like you said, most important thing for me is solitude.
Yeah, that's an important one. Yeah, because and we're still competing. If you have a phone or if you have email or text messages, we're still competing with all that. Even if you're not actively going to it, it's still there, in the periphery of your mind. And, you hear a ding on your phone or whatever. I try to shut mine off if I'm doing something, but you're right.
I mean, don't you feel that way? Don't you feel like when you read about some of the greatest people, like to me, one of the most appealing things is watching movies like from the 40s or the 50s, and people move house and they've got a suitcase, because they have a few clothes and they have a suitcase. I mean, to me, that's, I'd love to get to that point. Just
what do you think has changed? What's made people, put it in context of this show, why do you think artists go that route? And what do you think's changed in the world that you don't, even artists, you mentioned Annie Leibovitz and some of these other kind of commercial artists that they're involved in all that gear and all, all that it's commercial stuff though, right? But what do you think's changed?
Easy access to everything. I mean, I could get off the show and in 5 minutes on Amazon, I could have a whole bunch of crap coming to me.
Yeah.
It's just so easy to get information and then to get, and I've fallen down that rabbit hole many times. I mean, even did that with the collodion, with, not knowing you and ordering some of the wrong crap that I ordered.
Yeah.
Just ease of getting things.
Anything else? Anything else might contribute to that? So ease, definitely. I mean, like you said, boom, it's done. What else do you think might be different? Context?
Kind of like what you've talked about before, I've got this lens, I've got that lens, our thinking that we've got to have all this just stuff to be
gear acquisition syndrome.
Yeah, but that happens with musical instruments. It happens
everything. Gear acquisition syndrome. It doesn't matter, right? Why do we want that Martin guitar or that Ibanez guitar over that Kmart guitar?
Well, that I could answer that.
Yeah. Well, you're going to answer it. You're going to answer it with a quality answer.
Right.
What I'm going to answer it with, guess what? In the right hands, that Kmart guitar going to sound great. An artist will make that work. In fact, it might sound better than the Ibanez or the Martin.
Well, Ibanez and Martins are mass produced now. People got
It's a metaphor.
Don't get me started on guitars.
No, it's a metaphor.
I play classical, so that's.
Well,
But I've had steel strings and stuff too.
in that room in there, I've got a dobro, 3 cigar box guitars. I used to play guitar back when I was a little tiny boy. I used to play. Yeah.
I have 4 guitars.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2
Any Martins or
Hermes.
Ibanezes?
Huh?
Any Martins or Ibanezes?
No, I've had no, because I play classical.
Oh, so you got plastics. You got Trigger. You got a Trigger guitar. That's a Willie Nelson special. That's Trigger.
Oh no, I don't have.
That's a classical guitar. Did you know that?
Yeah. That's a great guitar.
Oh man, plastic strings and all.
I love the videos on that guy. He's got a guy that keeps it together for him, and he's like, I don't even know how much longer I can keep it together. It's good stuff.
Yes, it is. It is.
Guitars is a whole nother Saturday, okay, Quinn?
Yeah, exactly. But let me get to the point that you're making too here. My first concert was Willie Nelson live, and Charlie Daniels opened for him. Man, and that Coliseum was full of cannabis, and this was in 1976. Okay, so it was legal back then in that environment. For Willie, it was legal.
My first concert was Led Zeppelin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
1977. We're really dating ourselves here.
You're so lucky.
Same thing at the Cap Center when the lights would go up. You couldn't even see the roof for all the smoke hanging. And okay, I'll just say it. Anything that went by you, you weren't afraid of it. You weren't afraid to smoke it back then. It just went by you, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Good
Nobody's out to hurt you. Yeah.
Good times.
Oh, absolutely. Thilo says, oh, very good. And here we go, right? I think the younger generation now have fewer things because a lot has turned digital versus physical. So true, right? I mean, think about that. God, I was thinking the other day, my God, Adobe Photoshop used to be on DVDs and stuff, right? Now you have to pay every month. Television, you got to pay every month if you want to watch anything. You've got everything's commodified into these little tiny chunks with micro payments every single month, everything. So yeah, no more books, records, DVDs, photo album. Totally. That's totally true. Isn't that ironic that we're consuming more and yet this younger generation, yeah, they don't have, I mean, they have books, but records, DVDs, photo, all that stuff, right? It's an interesting dilemma. It's something to think about, right? I think our mass consumption stems from our denial of death and trying to fill that void. That act of shopping, act of consuming is a huge buffer for us. And I had a guy in a workshop. I won't mention his name because I probably couldn't remember his last name, but we were having a break. This is when we were in Denver. We were having a break at the workshop, and he was over by the door going outside, and I said, "Oh, are you going to come out and chill outside for a bit?" And he said, "Oh, I gotta look on Amazon." He said, "Man, I got so high last night that I bought a bunch of stuff, and I can't remember what I bought." I said, "Oh God." We got the cannabis culture on Amazon. Jeff Bezos is loving that, kind of like munchies or something, right? I couldn't believe it. I said, "You bought a bunch of stuff and you can't remember what you bought." Wow. But so there's all kinds of forms of consumption. But all right, guys, thank you so much. Jeffrey says, "Think outside the box, no box required." There you go. I like that too. Yeah. Think outside the box. That's good advice to end this. I appreciate you coming in. What should we do next week? What do you want to do? I would like to make a suggestion that we try to ease our way into some ideas or share some work or look at, something that's, I'll still sprinkle a little bit of theory in there, just a little bit, not, or do Q&As or
Show
Hi.
and tell.
Hey, thanks, Tim.
Show and tell is always good.
Yeah, show and tell is great. I wanted to share those couple of pieces today with you guys because it's kind of it's a long time coming for me in this process of how I'm constructing these things, and I'm never quite sure. So I'm always experimenting. I'm always trying things. I'm always it's a really fine line between being too esoteric and too like lusciously gray, you know. And what is he doing? I think, and maybe I'm in my own head too much, but I think those two pieces that I showed you today communicate fine. I mean, that's what they are. Those were my intentions. That's in line with the theories. Those are ideas that I'd like to pursue. That's what I've been doing for a long time. But you're right. I'd like to see people start sharing. It doesn't have to be photography. It's great if it is. I mean, we love photography. But Tim Layton, Tim should come in here and show some of his stuff that he's doing. Tim, I'm going to throw that out there for you. Stephen, whenever you want to show up and share some of your stuff, Stephen's just joining us for the first time today, I think. So I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but anybody that wants to come in and share some stuff, share some ideas. Oh, great. Yes, Tim. How about you come in next Saturday if you can, and we'll do that. Tim's got some really beautiful work. You guys will really appreciate what he's doing and why he's doing it. He's like the perfect kind of candidate to come in and talk to us and share what he's doing. And you'll relate with his work very well, Bernadette. You will really understand where he's going, so or appreciate it at least. So let's do that. Let's have the creative mind and mortality, artists and anxiety, show and tell. I love it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I so greatly appreciate you guys. I really do. It's overwhelming to have people constant and steady. I could be out here by myself trudging through this stuff, and I just love to have the company and throw out some ideas and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Tim says, sounds wonderful. Good. You guys are be in for a treat with Tim, and anybody else that wants to share, we're going to leave the show completely open for that. No lectures, no nothing. I'll relate a little bit of death anxiety and stuff I see. But other than that, that's it. That's it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Have a great time. Be safe, be healthy, be happy. Bye-bye.